You've been scrolling through endless spec sheets, wondering if there's a laptop that actually lets you game, edit, and stream without feeling like you're juggling 3 separate machines. You want something that stays solid on a desk for marathon sessions, fits in a backpack when you need to head to a LAN party, and doesn't drain your wallet the moment the warranty expires. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing I asked myself when I first saw the HP OMEN AI 17-inch was whether a 17-inch chassis could still be a daily driver. A lot of gamers end up with a 15-inch machine because it's easier to carry, but then they complain about cramped screens when they sit down for a serious gaming night or a video edit. The OMEN AI tries to bridge that gap with a larger display that actually feels comfortable to look at for hours, while still keeping the weight down enough to slip onto a standard backpack. That's a real compromise you don't see on paper, and it's the kind of hidden trade-off that separates an Have from a worth-the-money purchase. So, who should consider this laptop? If you're a competitive player who lives for higher fresh rate shooters, a content creator who needs a QHD canvas for color-critical work, or a student who wants a single machine that can handle both coursework and weekend gaming, the OMEN AI fits that sweet spot. The 240Hz panel does more than just look smooth, it actually reduces motion blur enough that you can track fast-moving enemies without the smearing you get on lower refresh screens. I tried a fast-paced battle royale on it, and the responsiveness felt comparable to a desktop monitor that costs a few $100s more. For video editors, the QHD resolution gives you enough screen real estate to see timelines and previews side by side, which speeds up the workflow compared to a 1080p laptop. On the flip side, if you're a minimalist who only plays casual indie titles or you travel constantly and need a sub-4-pound device, this isn't the best fit. The chassis, while not a brick, still leans toward the heavier side of the spectrum, and the battery life reflects that you'll get roughly 3 to 4 hours of intensive gaming before you're hunting for an outlet. That's fine for a dedicated gaming setup at home, but it's a pain if you plan to game on the train. Also, if you're hoping for a laptop that will double as a professional workstation for heavy 3D rendering, the 8GB of VRAM on the RTX 5070 will eventually feel limiting. You'll notice longer render times compared to a higher-tier GPU. Now let's talk about the day-to-day experience. The first thing you notice when you open the lid is how vivid the colors look on the IPS panel. Text is crisp, and the contrast holds up even in a brightly lit room, something I've struggled with on other gaming laptops that lean toward a gaming-only aesthetic with oversaturated hues. I ran a few design programs overnight, and the laptop stayed cool enough that the fans didn't become a distraction. The noise stayed in the low to mid-range, which is a relief when you're recording voiceovers and don't want the fan whining in the background. The keyboard is another practical win. The RGB backlight is customizable, but more importantly the key travel feels solid without being mushy, which is a subtle but important detail during long sessions. I tested it during a 2-hour strategy game where I was constantly typing commands, and the keys didn't start to feel spongy after an hour, a problem I've had with cheaper laptops that claim RGB but sacrifice tactile feedback. Connectivity is where the OMEN AI quietly shines. The inclusion of a portable USB hub, the DockStorm expander, means you can plug in a wired Ethernet cable, a secondary monitor, and a couple of USB-C peripherals without fighting for ports on the laptop itself. In a real-world scenario, I had my external webcam, a high-refresh external monitor, and a wired headset all connected at once while streaming on Twitch, and the hub handled it without any lag or disconnects. That kind of plug-and-play simplicity is often overlooked in reviews that focus solely on internal specs. One practical weakness I ran into is the storage capacity. The 512GB NVMe SSD feels generous at first, but after installing a few large games, a professional video editing suite, and a decent collection of media, you start to scrape the last 100GB. The laptop doesn't have an easy second M.2 slot, so you'd need an external SSD for overflow, which adds cost and reduces the neatness of a single-device workflow. If you're planning to keep a large library of AAA titles, you should budget for an additional external drive. Thermals are another area to watch. The 230W power adapter provides ample juice for the CPU and GPU, but under sustained load the laptop pushes the fans to a higher pitch after about 45 minutes. It's not a catastrophic temperature spike, the system throttles only slightly to keep the chips in a safe range, but you'll hear the